Just to remind people, I'm Paul Greenwood, the Improvement Advisor and Programme Lead for the Restraint Reduction Programme. Just going to quickly give you an update on where we're up to from this month, which is October. We've completed the training with all the trusts, that's the Restraint Reduction training and the Quality Improvement training, and the teams were really positive about the training, which was great. And we're now into what we call the action learning sessions, which is essentially taking all the improvement elements into action learning to look at how they have planned to study act cycled those improvements within the ward areas. One of the key things about the programme is that there are many tools out there, and we're trying to essentially look at which ones work the best in a variety of areas, both older adults, acute, secure, and with child mental health on some of the young people's mental health wards in the region. So we get a range of tools specific to particular areas. So we have things like safety plans, handovers, debriefs, community meetings, meaningful activities, the use of sensory rooms or the development of sensory or what we call low stimulus rooms. People tend to give them different names. But the key with a lot of the tools is you can implement those as part of a planned use study act cycle, but what we find is that if you don't deal with the culture and the attitudes on that ward, then it becomes a tick box exercise and it kind of gets lost in all the busyness of a ward. So for me, one of the key things from every ward I've worked on really is to start to challenge some of the unwritten rules that exist and some of the blanket rules that exist, because they kind of reinforce a culture that's about control and restriction, and rules are generally followed by some and not by others. And we've seen some examples of this time and time again, of things around set times for drinking. At midnight the ward's day room's locked, so if the patients are watching a film and it finishes at 12:30 and that television goes off at 12, so they're missing half an hour of the film. People getting up in the night wanting a drink, no, you can't have a drink. People after breakfast who wake up after breakfast tend to find that people are saying, no, you can't have any toast, or you can't have any drinks or whatever. Some staff implement those rules to the letter, some staff do the opposite and will give people a drink. We'll not close the day room at 12 at night. We'll let people have a piece of toast. And that's great because they are removing those restrictions. The problem you have is that you've got a team where half of the team are doing one rule, which is an open approach, and the other side of the team are essentially implementing these unwritten rules. And that's extremely confusing and frustrating for patients, and that leads to tensions on the ward. There are also rules around visitors, rules around people who come onto the ward. There's a variety of people who are on and off wards all the time, and rules for patients in terms of going into the people's bedrooms or particular rooms they can and can't go into, and this locked door approach that everything's locked down. In some wards that go on, everything's open, no doors are locked. So there's something about challenging some of the rules that are around on wards as a sort of starting point for beginning to then implement some of the tools. Because if the attitude isn't there, then you're going to end up with something that is essentially a tick box exercise. It loses its quality. So for me, you would start with looking at the rules on the ward and talking to patients about the impact of unwritten rules on them, and getting the team to have a conversation about the rules and which ones need getting rid of, which ones need tweaking and changing, and which ones need to be kept, and that everyone is then clear about the rules and are consistent in those rules. And patients play a big part in that whole process, so they're very clear about what rules exist. So those are some of the things that are useful to look at if you're thinking about looking at restraint reduction. And that can be really challenging for some staff who may have implemented a particular rule for many years. You're asking them suddenly not to do it, so you're having to work with that. But to me, it's about working with the team and with the patients as a whole. And we've had some good first steps around that, and the wards at the moment are beginning to tackle some of the rules and working with the patients about those rules. We're also looking into things like community meetings, the My Safety plans, positive handovers, and what a good quality debrief should look like, a formal debrief, and the patient debrief. And we're finding that some staff find the debriefs quite challenging and do struggle to complete a debrief in a way that's got some quality to it. So what I'd like to do as we're building up the evidence of what a good debrief should look like, on the next vlog, which will be around December time, is to talk you through some of the things that we're finding around debriefs, about what a good debrief looks like, but also what doesn't work. So on the next one, I'll go through that in a bit more detail. So until then, thank you for listening.